What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm gonna walk y'all through my resume and give you a few tips you could probably use when updating or creating yours. That sound like something you want to see? Stick around. Alright, welcome back. We appreciate you sticking around. So, first thing I want to do is give you the customary request of smash that like button for me. Comment on the content. If you see something in this resume, or if you got a question about resumes that you think I might be able to answer, put the comment in the comment section. I will respond. If you are not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and click the subscribe button and subscribe. And if you want to be one of the first folks to see new content when it drops, click the little bell icon. YouTube will let you know instantly, for the most part, when new content drops from this channel, and you can, check it out and see what kind of value you can get out of that. Now that we've got all that out the way, let's get right into this resume, right? And I'm gonna pull it up on the screen here, and I'm gonna make myself like a mouse real small, and we're gonna talk about what we see on my resume, and I'm gonna give you some tips as we go along the way of what I think about resumes, how I do my resume. This is by no means the hard and fast way to do it, the expert way to do it. I'm sure there's many resources on YouTube talking about different ways to do resumes, but this is my tech resume, what's worked for me. I've done many interviews. I've, had much trial and error. So this is what I think is good. I've gotten feedback on resumes in this manner. So everything is relative in IT for the most part. So relative to me, this is what it is. All right. So here we go. All right. So I got a few tips, to give folks about resumes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them tips as we go along, section by section. As you can see, I got my resume pulled up here. One thing is that I tailor the resume. So I keep the resume pretty much up to date. And I'm going to tell you how I do that. So whenever I learn a new skill, or I pick up, or I do a new project or something that I think is worthy of putting on a resume or talking about, the first thing I do is I update my LinkedIn profile, right? So it's quick. I can quickly go online, do a little typing or whatever on the LinkedIn profile, and that saves it. I don't update my resume until it's time to apply for a job, right? And I try to tailor the resume to the job description for whatever they put in the job description as what they was looking for. Whenever I pick up a new skill at work, I write a little something about it really quickly on my LinkedIn profile, and then I just let that build. And then when it's time to update my resume, I can go to my LinkedIn profile, copy what I put in there, paste it right into my resume, and update the resume in real time like that. Add a few tweaks, tweak it to the job that I'm applying for, and boom, I'm off to the races, right? With that being said, let's just start at the top of the resume. As you can see, I've got my name, I've got my cell phone number. Some people put their home address on the top of their resumes. I don't think it matters. And it ain't never stopped me from getting a job, not having my address on my resume. So you see my name, you see my cell phone number. Now, tip number one for resumes is have a LinkedIn page and put the LinkedIn page URL on your resume, right? What happens is, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I noticed it, and even I've done it. Say, for instance, you're applying for a job and you're doing research on a company, and you get names from the hiring manager who gave you the interview, right? I go straight to LinkedIn and start looking up profiles. And now it's up to you how you want to do that, but if you want to do it anonymously, you can figure out a way to anonymously look at people's LinkedIn profiles, right? If you just don't want to let people know you looking at their profile. But people look at people's profiles all the time. People look at my profile all the time. And, I don't mind it at all. I'm glad people look at it. It keeps my stuff relevant, right? So just like people who are maybe applying for a position and researching who their boss is or whatever, these people do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Whether they let you know this or not, or whether it's taboo or not, folks be on LinkedIn looking at folks' profile. I have people who have pro accounts who anonymously look at my profile, and it'll tell you such and such looked at your profile, but it won't give you their picture. It won't show you who they is. It'll just tell you what industry they in. And because they have a pro account, they can hide it from you who looked at your profile. So, people look at your profile. And so what a hiring manager might do is he might get your resume in front of them, and he want to get a kind of an idea of what kind of person you are, your personality, your characteristics, and some of your background. So he might just go type your name in LinkedIn, see if your profile pulls up, and take a look at what you got on your profile and how you do it. And I did a video about LinkedIn profiles, and I showed my LinkedIn profile, and I will put a link or something to it somewhere around here where you can go check that video out too, because I think it was a good one. I went all the way through the LinkedIn profile, gave some tips on that too, right? So definitely want to have a LinkedIn profile. Definitely want to put the profile address on your resume. That's just going to help you and make it easier for people to look up, who you are. And if you tailor that LinkedIn profile with a good bio, it's going that's going to always benefit. So the first tip was have a LinkedIn profile. Make sure you put it in your resume. Next tip is emphasize soft skills on your resume, right? A lot of people create resumes and they just put the tech stuff. Oh, I got this certification. I did this lab. I did this project. But a lot of IT is interpersonal skills. You got to be able to deal with people, deal with stress, talk to people, explain things to people who may not be as adept as you. You may have to break complicated ideas and terms down into layman terms. You got to be able to communicate effectively. So these are soft skills, and you want to emphasize those in your resume. My professional profile, right? I'm in my professional profile section, and this is what I put in. And you could do something like this in yours, right? So I'll read it out. I'll go ahead and read it. It says dedicated IT professional with comprehensive management, system support, and information technology experience, right? Overview. That just kind of gave you the top line of who I am. And then I kind of broke it down specifically. Enterprise level application support, VIP support, tier 3 hardware and software support, desk side and concierge support, right? I done most of it all, right? And then I broke it down a little bit more. And in this third line, I emphasized the soft skills, ability to draft, interpret, and communicate policies, procedures, and best practices for executives, departments, and end users while providing excellent customer service, right? All of that is true, and I think it's an excellent kind of tagline to end off that little small paragraph. What I would stay away from is all the fancy colors and art and ghosting backgrounds and all that. It's just too busy. You don't need to see that. A lot of times resumes are looked at by some kind of AI system first, and it's definitely not looking for none of that. It's looking for certain keywords and terms, right? And just because you got all this happy art and colors and all that stuff don't mean nobody's going to pay no attention to your resume, because it's got to get whittled down first before anyone's even going to look at it. It's got to meet certain requirements. It's got to fit in certain groups. It's got to have certain keywords, or it ain't going to get looked at no way, right? So we got to understand that. So you don't have to go all out and pay for the expensive templates with all the colors. You don't need none of that. Simple, legible text with good spacing so you can read it and it's not hard on the eyes. No long paragraphs. That's going to be good for you, right? And that goes on to my third tip. Third tip is don't let your resume be no more than 2 pages long, right? That's the maximum, right? And to me, some people include references on their resume, some don't. I always do. That's just my preference. because I have good records and good work history with all of my previous employment. So I don't mind, new employers calling my old employers, because I know they just gonna give them a stellar, assessment of who I am. So I'm not worried about it. And at least call them, ask them about me, because they gonna talk me up and you're gonna be even more impressed, right? So that's why I put my references, but everybody may not have, Certainly don't put any bad references. If you are gonna do references on your resume, don't put no bad ones. Ones where you left under not so good terms, jobs, don't even do it. Just leave it off, right? My next section is information technology competencies, right? And here's just what I put, what kind of systems that I've worked on or administered or, supported, right? OS, these are large enterprise applications that cover large enterprises, and they are very important to large enterprises. And that's why I have these here first, because if you know something or have worked with and on ERP systems, MSP systems, CRM systems, ITSM, ticketing systems, you're going to be valuable, right? Because every company uses them, right? And if you got some skill on them, that just makes you more valuable. AWS, Oracle, Cisco, Microsoft, Dell, HP, CollegeNet, Appian, Ellucian. These are in, a lot of these, or a few of these are in the educational industry. So if I was applying for a tech job at like a university or a community college or something, the CollegeNet, the Appian, the Ellucian, the Dell, these would stand out, the Cisco's. All of them really, but those would stand out a lot because those are used heavy in educational industry. And software, Microsoft is the number one. Microsoft Office Suite, every company that I know of can think of uses this. Microsoft Outlook, PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, they use these. Adobe, who don't use Adobe? Adobe PDF, Adobe Reader, all these get used. Cisco, ServiceNow, definitely. Ticketing system. ServiceNow is used for way more than ticketing. They have a whole lot of stuff. And if you have some experience and knowledge and skill in these, that's going to look good on a resume, right? So then my next section is certifications. And this is where I will get to tip number 4. Do not write long paragraphs of stuff on your resume. Nobody wants to read it. Think about it. When you see your favorite, when you scrolling through social media and you see a post and it's a page long, you might even want to read. You're like, man, I wonder what they're talking about. But you just don't want to read all that. It's just not going to be worth it to you. So what you do? Scroll, swipe up, right? You ain't reading it. Nobody wants to read long, drawn out, wordy texting, right? They want to get straight to the point. Time is money. So let's do bullet points. And let's tailor our resume to the job description. So right now, the reason why my resume looks like this, I'm just going to give you some insight, is because my focus is cloud oriented right now, right? I'm headed to the cloud. I'm actually, part of my future plan, my 5-year plan is to become a cloud architect or cloud administrator, right? So I'm gearing my resume, my skill set, my practice, all of that, my learning toward cloud emphasis. Now, I've got 8 certifications listed here, and I created extra room on the page by listing 4 here and 4 on the other side. I've got more certifications than these, but the other ones don't really pertain to what I'm trying to do, so there's no need to really list them. I got everything that could show the breadth of knowledge, but still the most important ones, right? And so moving on down, professional IT experience. Now, I've got some professional IT experience now, so this is why my resume is 2 pages long for the most part, because I have a lot of experience to put on it. But people who are just starting out may not have all this experience. So if you don't have a lot of IT experience and you just started, emphasize your education. So your education section would be up here instead of, for me, I got it at the bottom because it's not as prevalent as the actual experience I have. So you will put your education section up here, and you're going to emphasize that education. I took this course. I got this certification. I did these projects while taking this class. I learned how to do this. I know how to do that. Blase, skippy, right? No long paragraphs, bullet points, right? I've taken apart this and put it back together. I've supported the hardware of this, blah, blah, blah. Whatever you've done. When you're starting out in IT, you're going to get some experience just from going through it, particularly if you're going for certifications like A+ and Network Plus. You're going to get experience just by taking those certifications if you learn the material. Now, some people take certifications and they learn how to take certifications, and they're really good at memorizing content, and they learn what kind of content is on the certifications. And that's all well and fine, but when it comes time to put them skills into practice, if you didn't learn them, you don't know nothing. All you got is a piece of paper. So when I say go get this certification or that certification, I'm saying that with the mind that you're going to learn the material and become somewhat of a subject matter expert of the material that you pick up on the certification. So if you went and took the A+ certification, by the time you get the certification, you're going to be comfortable with disassembling, repairing, and troubleshooting desktops, laptops, mobile devices, and so on, right? If you ain't comfortable doing that after you get your A+ certification, then all you have is a piece of paper. You need to work on your technician skills, right? Because that's what entry level is. You're a technician. Get your technician up, okay? So, I think I went off onto a tangent. Back to the resume, right? We did number 4. It was bullet points, not paragraphs. Tip number 5, and this is the last tip. Know what's on your resume. A lot of people will build a resume and never look at it again, go all the way to an interview and don't even remember what's on the resume. They may be legitimate skills and stuff that you put on there, but you don't even remember what it is because you just did it one time and never looked at it again. Know what's on your resume and talk about them skills and learn how to talk about them skills better so that you can communicate them when it's time to go to an interview. We're going to start at the top right here in my professional IT experience. You're always going to go with your current position first, and then you're going to go backwards, regress through time, right? Now, if you know me or if you've seen videos on this channel, and I would encourage you to go check out videos on this channel so you can see the background. I ain't always been in tech. I was a construction worker. I went from construction to tech. I have not been in tech for 20 years. I moved up quickly because of my principles, my work ethic, and my determination. It can be done. Anyone can do it. I know it. And that's why I'm telling you this, right? So first thing, currently, my current position is Senior System Administrator on the data center infrastructure team, right? And I am also the team lead for cloud collaboration. And remember, when you're doing your bullet points, emphasize soft skills. Make sure at least 1 or 2 bullet points on every job is a soft skill that you did. And then you also want to have quantifiable metrics. What did you do in this job? Like every time I get a new role or new position, I survey the landscape and see how I can make something better, whether it be a process or it be a piece of technologies that's being used or whatever it is. I try to figure out a way to make it better for the whole department, for the whole team, everyone, and that always is beneficial and it gives you more skills. So going through it, and this is in my own words, I write all this is not copied and paste from some job description from when I applied for. So you always want to do that, put it in your own words and put about things you're doing, have done, or plan to do, right? And as you can see, I've got the format that I set this up in is I put the position, then I put where the position is, and over to the right, I put the date, right? So the position before the one I'm in now was System Administrator in the Enterprise Applications department or on the Enterprise Applications team, right? And some of my responsibilities was provisioning, maintenance, and management of enterprise applications. such as CollegeNet, 25 Live, Speedy Server, Appian, Campus Pass, SolidWorks, Autodesk, RCAMs, and all related infrastructure pertaining to the enterprise applications. Moving on, before that was Network Support Specialist 3. Investigated, documented, and initiated an Active Directory OU cleanup for the campus. This was one of the first initiatives I undertook when I first took this position. Every time I take a new position, I thoroughly survey the land. Who are the people in charge? Who are the co-workers? What is the attitude of the overall department? What does their documentation look like? I go through everything. Where do they keep their data? Where do they keep their files? What do we have? What don't we have? What could I do to make it better? So, you know, that's one of the things I'm kind of proud of. Also, in this position, I implemented a brand new ticketing system. It turned out real good. So moving on to the next one is System Support Specialist 2, right? And so this is the one that I updated the ticketing system that was in place. When I got there, they had a ticketing system, had been being used for years. You know, there was categories and items 100 pages, folders deep, right? It was just on top of. So when people would go to request service, they would have to go through this long list of categories and equipment and all this stuff just to get to the issue they was having to put the ticket in, right? And it was just too much. So, you know, I started a project to go through, clean all that up, get rid of the unnecessary stuff, put everything in broader categories so that it's easier to look at and easier to use. And it worked out perfectly and everybody loved it. And, you know, the rest is history, right? Another thing is when I first came into this employer and I started out as, you know, the bottom PC technician, came in within a month, I was closing twice as many tickets as the two people that had already been there for several years and a dozen years combined, both of them. And it was crazy. But, you know, I jumped in there with the work ethic and I was, you know, like I said, came in as a PC support specialist. I had something to prove. And boy, did I prove it, right? Move right up past them like it wasn't nothing, blew right through them. And you know, it was a real cool time. I enjoyed all of it. I just, you know, enjoyed working it, right? And so every position that I ever got into, or most of the positions, and what I try to do is find out a way that I could do it better, you know what I'm saying? Or that I can make at least one process better. And, you know, so you're adding something, you're leaving it better than you found it, right? That's what I try to do in every position that every role that I take, every position that I find myself in, to move up quickly in IT. Because like I said, I wasn't always in IT and I was trying to move quickly because I took a pay cut to switch to IT because I had to start at the bottom, right? So that's valuable experience and that is why it's shown up on my resume. You know, I've got a subscriber, goes by the handle of Axiom Brevity. And he asked me a few questions and I'm gonna take some time right now to address those. And so one of the questions he asked was how I update my resume in LinkedIn, right? And so I've covered some of that while I'm going through it, right? So the process again is whenever I pick up a new skill, participate in a new project, I make sure I write that down so I don't forget it. But the first thing I update is my LinkedIn page. And I'll just go in, edit that section and put in what I did, right? I don't update my resume until it's time to submit resumes. But I've got a digital resume through my LinkedIn that I always update and tweak on a regular basis because I'm trying to be active on LinkedIn and social media so that I can keep a presence. And this is another tip. When you're first trying to get into IT, instead of trying to apply for big companies who are well established and have, you know, well set procedures on how they hire their people, and a lot of them, truth be told, use staffing companies. it seems like it's much easier to get a job with a staffing company than on with a regular company. It cuts out a lot of red tape and stuff, particularly if you've got small background issues or so on. Lack of experience, lack of skills. A lot of times you can get on with a staffing company, and even with a lack of skills. And so, as you can see, that goes back to 2017. Now, 2016, 2017. Now you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 positions on this resume, 7 pieces of experience. And it only goes back to 2016. It's 2021. That's 5 years. A lot of people say, oh, you got to put 10 years on your resume, 15 years, whatever. None of that matters. People who are looking at resumes want to see skills, value, and quantifiable benchmarks in your career. All of the fancy and the long and all that doesn't really matter, per my experience in the tech industry. I can't speak for all industries. I can't speak for all experience, but per mine for this, not so much, right? And that's just, the way it is. So as you can see, 5 years. I went from a knock technician 2 with tech systems in 2016 to senior system administrator and the team lead of a 5-man crew in 5 years. Needless to say, the income change is drastic. And so finally, since I have that much experience to put on a resume, my education section is last here, right? And so we're getting to the bottom of the second page. Remember I said, try to keep it under 2 pages. I'm going to show you what this third page is in just a minute, right? And so this is why it's optional. Education, Bachelor's of Science, Network Operations and Security, Associate of Arts in Information Technology. Now, you don't need a degree to work in tech, but a degree will certainly help you in tech. It's all about the overall, to me, the overall profile. If I was missing both of these educations and 2 or 3 of these work experiences, I would not look as good to a recruiter or a hiring manager as I do by having them, right? So the more you can put on your resume, the better you're going to look to the people who it matters to. Now, my third page, the only reason there is a third page is because I've included references. Otherwise, it'd just be these 2. And the reason why I've included these references is for the same reason I mentioned earlier. I know that every one of these references is going to give me a stellar review because I make sure I do a stellar job when I do my job. So I don't have any reason to think that anyone would give me a negative, negative feedback or anything like that. I think I've been privileged to work with a lot of good people and a lot of smart people. And there are people in the tech world way smarter than me, know way more than me. Probably a few that work way harder. I don't know about way, but probably a few that work harder than me. But, I changed my career from something totally foreign to IT, so I had to work hard in order to establish myself in this field. So that's why I say I don't know about way harder, because I worked very hard to get where I am. And so this is my resume. Now, one other thing I want to add with resume, and this goes to interviewing. This is kind of a bonus, right? We're going to do a little bonus talk about interviewing with our resume. And I keep this with my resume, so it's kind of part of it to me. And this goes back to another question that one of my subscribers asked, and that's Axiom Brevity again. And the question he asked is, how do I provide value? And I think that is a good question, and that question goes to this document. Now, let me show you what I'm referring to. I'm going to minimize my resume here. And as you can see here, I've got this document. Now, this document I've named What I Offer. And I look at this document regularly. I go back and update this document before I apply for positions or when I think it's time to update it. And it's basically, I've done a lot of interviewing in my time in the tech field, right? I didn't just get every job I went after. I've submitted hundreds of resumes, hundreds. So, and I've done dozens and dozens of interviews and didn't get no job. So I became, I paid attention to every one of those interviews, and I became very good at interviewing. And so I would write myself down little tips. And these seem to be the most common behavioral type questions that get asked in interviews. And I've seen this not just in tech, but everywhere, every interview. These are like very common behavioral questions. And so I've already tailored my answers, and I keep them sharpened with new experiences and stuff, so that when I'm asked these kinds of questions, I can come right off the head and talk about it, articulate it very well spoken, and it impresses hiring managers and interviewers all the time, right? And so this is why I'm showing you this. This is my bonus. And particularly to Axiom Brevity, I appreciate you commenting and liking on my videos. So I definitely wanted to get something in there for you. And so this is what it is. So I'm going to just go through this little document. So it says, give an example when you went above and beyond the call of duty. Now, there's always a question like this in an interview. They'll say, tell us about a time you had an unruly customer, or tell us about a time you had a difficult situation with a user, or tell us, something to this effect, right? And so when was a time, if you're new to tech and you don't have any tech experience to give to this, when was a time that you went that extra mile to help out in a work capacity? And put that down and talk about that experience. There's always a question, something to do with multitasking, or many times there is, right? How do you prioritize? How do you multitask? How do you do this? How do you work well, right? And so this, you can can this answer right here, because this is a good one, right? You can can this and spit it out every time you get asked this question. My usual way of prioritizing tasks is in order of impact. The tasks with the highest impact potential get the most attention in the beginning, and as I progress, I refocus attention to lesser impacting tasks, and as this fluctuates throughout the process up into the deadline. That's a perfect answer. You can have that one. That one's on me. Write that down. You could probably change up a word or two, and man, use that, okay? Next one. How do you do documentation? You'll get a question like this. And it says, in my current role, I've done things like produce dozens of how-to documents and multiple SOPs and SLAs, and even revise the statement of purpose for the IT department. I'm currently revising and streamlining the tracker ticketing system we use for help desk. Wow, I haven't even read this in a while. And I've been through 3 positions since the last time I've updated this. Oh, and another thing. While I'm in the interview, and I'm actually going to do my interview process video. So you know what? I'm going to actually keep that little tidbit, that tip for that video. So we'll save that, right? Moving on, how I keep my tech skills current, and am I affiliated with any tech groups, and so on. One thing, if you're not affiliated with any tech groups or forums or boards, do it, right? Go sign up for them, and then just every now and then put in some input, right? This was my answer. This can be your answer. If you implement everything that I've said in that answer, you can say this same thing too, right? So that's the idea. Give you tips, and these are them. Next one, my biggest weakness. This one is very, very common, and you'll likely get it regardless of the field you're trying to enter into. And I think this is a cannibal one too. You can take this one. This is another free one I'm gonna give you. And this is what I've said, and this is what I say when asked this question. My greatest weakness may be my tendency to overanalyze or become too meticulous over tasks at times. I believe careful deliberation ensures maximum effectiveness, but it does so at the expense of time. For me, the challenge is knowing when it's becoming more detrimental than productive. And I think that's a very good answer. And I believe a lot of people, especially in the tech world, who are geared like, tech people, suffer from this. Okay, so next one. Tell about a time you made a suggestion to improve work. This is what I do, right? This is my thing. Whenever I get into a new role or a new position, I find a way to innovate, improve some process, some program, some software platform, whatever it is. I'm going to find something to make better, and I'm going to show it to everybody, show it off to everybody how I made this better and how we're all better for it, right? Do that. Make that your thing. Why should we hire you? This is another one that is very common and you'll likely get at some point. And that brings us to the end of this document. I keep a document like this with my resume, and I go through and tweak it and touch it up from time to time. These are very common questions, and you would like to have an answer on the ready when you're being asked for it. You know, with that, I'm going to bring this particular video to an end. I hope that it was insightful, and I hope that it becomes beneficial to anyone who watches it. I'm sure there was some great tips and insights in here that people can use to help them progress in their IT career, to help them get started in IT, and to help them just take some of the stress and intimidation away from interviewing, applying for jobs, and going through that whole process, because it can be stressful and intimidating. And so again, I would request that if you have not done so already, please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm so this video can get in front of others who may be in need of tips like this to help them get past the apprehension or to get another step in the journey to changing their life. And if you're not already a subscriber, go ahead and click the subscribe button and click the bell to see videos as soon as they drop. And until the next video, YouTube, my people, thank you for hanging out with me and the Gadgetools Unlimited YouTube channel, and I will see you on the next video.